on the right side of the participants.
There we go. Okay, cool.
Okay, out of respect for everybody's time, it is 6 p.m. So we'll get started. Good afternoon. My name is Steve Stocker. I'm honored to be the mayor of Sun Prairie. I want to welcome you all to the March 9th virtual referendum town hall. Our goal is to educate our public. We've been trying to do these in person around the city by district, but knowing that everybody has a difficult life attending meetings these days, we wanted to do one virtual so that hopefully didn't include travel and you can do it from your own home. I know there's other alders that have, or there's alders out there, elected officials that have meetings tonight, but I would like to start if there's any alders present. I see Rex. If you could just state your name and district you represent, please.
Rex Owens, District 1.
Thank you, Rex. Anyone else? Okay, with that, I will turn it over to our city administrator, Aaron Oppenheimer, to take us through the referendum town hall.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll pull up the presentation and get started. All right, perfect. So go right on to our first slide. Here we go. So for the first thing is, for those that have lived in Sun Prairie for a while, you know that we've been experiencing very fast growth. What it comes down to is actually 700 new residents coming into the city on average per year, sometimes as high as 1,000 residents, but on average 700 new residents per year. The Capital Area Regional Planning Commission estimates that Sun Prairie's population will be 65,000 by 2050. So as it breaks down, by 2030 will be 44,000, 2040 will be 54,000, and then by 2050, as I mentioned, will be 65,000 in population. So we often hear, is Sun Prairie's growth going to continue? And it's projected to continue. In fact, we will likely exceed these projections as we have in the past. You can see Dane County's population will also continue to grow to over 880,000 residents by 2050. So we're in a fast-growing region and in a fast-growing community that creates some opportunities and some challenges. So we'll go on to the next slide. So Sun Prairie is a great place to live. I often hear from residents that they love living in Sun Prairie. In many communities and communities that I've been in previously, having managed 4 communities, I often hear from folks in other communities that they like living in the community where they are. In Sun Prairie, they love living in Sun Prairie. They always say that. So, and the reason for that is that we have a fantastic school district, shopping available to us, community events and festivals. We have great senses of place in our community with our historic downtown and Prairie Lakes. We have new businesses coming to the community and existing businesses expanding within the community. And the city plays a big part in all of this happening, putting in infrastructure, keeping the community neat and clean, keeping it safe, facilitating businesses coming in. And so a lot of that success is attributed to the city. We'll go to the next slide. The city is a full service community providing all of the services that you would think of in a city, both in their street maintenance, maintenance of all the infrastructure, utilities, sidewalks, bike facilities, etc. We have almost 50 parks within our community, fire, EMS service, library services, transit service. And when I mention fire and EMS service, I also want to mention that that service extends out to our partner communities, the town of Sun Prairie and the town of Bristol. We'll go on to our next slide. So as we provide services, experience continued growth, there's challenges that come with that. So we're providing services to more people, and the expectation of those services is that they be of high quality, and that comes with a cost. In addition to that, with inflation, tariffs, other things that increase the costs of goods and services, that's happening for the city as well. Vehicle costs are up, equipment costs are up, our materials costs, all the things that the city purchases, we've experienced significant cost increases. Finally, it is very difficult to recruit and retain staff. It's really become a dog eat dog world for talent. Everybody is stealing from one another, and there's just not enough folks to go around. And so that has driven up costs, both in wages and benefits, to be able to recruit and retain staff. In some cases, we have been unable to recruit positions at all: finance director, HR director, building inspection staff, engineers, IT staff. And so it really is a high cost driver for us, with 76% of our budget being for staffing costs. We'll go on to our next slide. So, levy limits, what brings us all out today? It is the law. It's been the law in the state of Wisconsin for 20 years that there is such a thing as levy limits. So how it works is when you hit the levy limit, which the city did in 2025, you can only increase your property tax levy by what is called net new construction. That's a fancy way of saying that everything that is built in the city in a year has a value assigned to it, a property tax value. We add up that value in that given year, divide it into the city's existing value, and that gives us a percentage. Our average over the last 5 years has been a 3% net new construction. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But when I laid out that formula, there was nothing in there for CPI, cost of living, inflation, any of those factors due to rising costs. There is no factor in there for that. The only way to exceed that 3% cap in net new construction is by referendum. And that's what we are pursuing right now on the April 7th ballot. So go on to the next slide. So you can see here from this slide that we've been projecting out net new construction for some time and when we would hit the levy limit. As I mentioned, our 5-year net new construction average is 3%. If you look at the statewide net new construction percentage, it is half of what the city's is. So we are growing at almost double the rate of other communities in the state. The challenge for us is our 5-year average change in our levy, our property tax levy, is 8%. So that is why deficits in our annual operating budget are starting to open up starting in 2027 through 2029. So that's the 3-year period we're looking at with this referendum. So we'll go on to our next slide. So when levy limits went into place in 2006, there was 4 communities that went out to referendum. As levy limits have progressed over the last 20 years, you can see that 19 communities have gone out to referendum in 2024. So this was by design, that communities would hit the levy limit and have to go out for referendum as the years went on. So this isn't something that is out of the norm. This was not an if we would hit levy limits, it's a when, and we have now hit levy limits starting in 2025. Over the last 10 years, over 75 Wisconsin municipalities have secured additional funding through a voter-approved operational referendums. 241 school districts went out for referendums in 2024. This is important to note because we often hear from residents that, did the city make a financial mistake? Did we mismanage our funds? Is that why we're going out to referendum? And you can see just by the volume of communities going out, as well as school districts going out to referendum, that it's not a mistake, it's not poor decision making, it's just how the system is built. In addition to that, there's a number of communities that are in our area that have recently gone out for referendum with mixed results. So this is not an easy challenge to go out for referendum. It is difficult to accomplish what we're trying to do. The city of Brookfield went out to referendum in 2025. Their referendum failed. They're now looking to go out for referendum again. The city of Fitchburg's referendum was in 2024. It also failed. They ended up using another revenue source, the wheel tax, to be able to make their budgets work. The city of Madison went out to referendum in 2024. It passed. Monona went out in 2024. It barely passed, 32 votes. The Village of Oregon went out in 2024. It failed. School districts of Madison and Sun Prairie both went out in 2024. Both of them passed. So we'll go on to the next slide. So many of our residents asked, what did you do before you decided to go out for referendum? The first thing we did is we utilized our financial planning tool. So we have a 10-year capital improvement plan that lays out all of the city's expensive infrastructure, buildings, and roads for 10 years. Many communities don't have a capital improvement plan at all, or maybe go out 5 years. We look out 10. We also have a 5-year financial management plan that looks at all of our operating expenses over the course of 5 years. Many communities do not take this step. We were able to, through our financial management plan, predict when we'd hit levy limits almost exactly as we are now. So through our good financial planning, we knew that we would hit levy limits around this time and have been planning for it. In addition to that, we implemented cost-saving efforts, implementing technology to be more efficient, looking at our contracts, and trying to find savings wherever we could. We've utilized other revenue sources. We've also conducted an options assessment to determine if we really were at a stage that we need to go out for a referendum. And then finally, we conducted a community survey to ask our residents what types of investments we should make and where we should disinvest. And we actually implemented some of the things that were in that survey. So we'll go into our next slide. Some of those cost-saving efforts have yielded $1 million in savings. So it does reduce our long-term costs by $1 million. How we did that is eliminated vacant executive staff positions in response to the community survey. So the residents said they'd like us to reduce the amount of administrative staff at the city. And so we did eliminate those positions, not just didn't fill them, we actually eliminated the position. In addition to that, we adjusted employee health insurance benefits. So prior to January 1st, 2025, employees did not contribute to their health insurance costs. By January 1st, 2027, they'll be paying 10% of their health insurance premium costs. The market average is 12%, so we're still doing a little better to be able to attract and retain employees, but we are sharing that cost with our employees. Additionally to that, we have formed partnerships, brought in millions of dollars in grants for road projects and other facilities and infrastructure, employed other revenue strategies to help defray costs, which have helped us expand our impact as well as reduce our overall operating costs. Unfortunately, these measures are still not enough to offset our rising costs and inflationary pressures, which has brought us to this point where we still need to go out for referendum. So we'll go on to our next slide. So the Sun Prairie City Council unanimously approved placing a referendum question on the April 7th ballot. In a few slides, we'll go over that exact question, but we wanted you to know that you will see that on your April 7th ballot. On to the next slide. So what will the referendum do if approved? One is we know that we need to make additional investments in public safety, specifically 2 firefighters and 1 police officer. We know that we need to increase our wages for part-time firefighters. 45% of our fire department staffing is done by part-time staff. So those part-time firefighters are making $12.50 an hour. So we know if we're not able to attract and retain that part-time staff, that 45% needs to be replaced with full-time staffing with salaries and benefits. So we'd like to be able to hold on to that for as long as possible, but we do need to incrementally add firefighters over time to be able to replace that 45% or we risk structural issues within our fire department staffing. In addition to that, we need to hire one part-time staff member at the library, specifically our makerspace coordinator, to bring the new makerspace at the library to life, which offers a lot of creative programming opportunities for youth and adults. And so this would really be a benefit in the quality of life for our community. And then finally, we need to address the projected budget gaps and maintain the existing services for the next 3 years. So that is 2027, 2028, and 2029. Perfect. So I mentioned at the end of the 3 years, we'll have to go out for referendum again. So I want the community to be aware of that we are essentially governing by referendum from here on out. Every so often, whether it be 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, we will have to go out for a referendum. So this is the actual ballot language that will be on the ballot for April 7th. You also see it, absentee ballots are getting mailed out this week. So you will start to see the ballots with this language. If the language looks confusing, it's by design. So this language has to be approved by the state, and it's a little bit challenging how they want us to communicate with residents on referendum language. So what it's saying is, if we are not successful in our referendum, we are limited to a roughly 5.5% increase in the levy, or $39,792,000 would be our general fund budget. What we're asking is to be able to exceed this limit, which is what a referendum is allowing us to exceed this state-imposed limit and increase the levy by just under 10%, so the 9.9%, which results in a levy of $43,742,000. That covers the deficits over the 3-year period, 2027, 2028, and 2029, and allows us to hire that additional staff that I mentioned previously. That amounts to a $3,950,000 increase in our budget over the course of the 3 years. That is a permanent one-time increase. So that 3.950,000 will be built into the city's levy going forward. We project out that at the end of the 3 years, we will have exhausted that $3,950,000. We will have brought our budget up to that full amount, and we'll need to go out to referendum again to relieve the cap for the next cycle, whether that be 3 years or 5 years. So we will go to the next slide. So the impact, the question that residents have is, how will this impact the average home in Sun Prairie? So the average home is valued at $381,500. This is roughly almost $150,000 more in value than when I started with the city. So we've had some good growth in our property values. But it would be $82 a year in 2027 is the impact, or $6.84 monthly. After the 3 years, the total impact on the average home of the referendum would be $263.95, or $22 monthly. So you can see the next line, if the value of your home is different, we're giving you the per $100,000 in assessed value, so that you can calculate out your particular tax bill. And this is for the referendum only. We'll go to the next slide. This breaks it down into years so that you can see each year across. So the $82 in 2027, $93 in 2028, $88 in 2029, all the way up to that $263 over the 3 years. All right, we'll go into the next slide. If the referendum is not approved, we often hear from residents, what will happen if it's not approved? The city will need to reduce its operating budget by the 3.5 million. That's the number to maintain services. And then we will not be able to hire the two firefighters, the police officer, the part-time makerspace coordinator, and will not be able to give compensation increase to our part-time personnel. So that will impact programs, services that the city offers. We'll need to reduce our workforce accordingly. Specific cuts will be identified by the city council as they put together their 2027 budget. But this will have an impact on the quality of life in Sun Prairie. And specifically, we've been a very proactive community addressing issues before they become problems in our community. We will become more of a reactive community. We'll have to address things once they break. And so it will change how our community acts and responds to needs within our community. We'll go on to the next slide. So voting. We want you to make your plan to vote, in-person absentee voting at City Hall. We got absentee ballots. As I mentioned, those are going out this week. Election day is April 7th. So lots of opportunities to participate and vote. So before we get to questions, I want to invite Chief Garrison to share some information with you, and then Chief Warwick will follow Chief Garrison. So, Chief.
Hello, everybody. My name is Christopher Garrison. I am your fire chief. I've been in this position here in Sun Prairie. I'm in my 11th year. I took over EMS about 2.5 years ago, and we consolidated both departments. So Aaron did touch on my staffing model. Currently, 45% of our staffing is being done by paid on-premise personnel, and I'll explain that a little bit more later. But Sun Prairie's fire service at a critical turning point. While the growth is a primary driver, I think that's a little bit of a misunderstanding of why we need new staffing. Our greatest challenge within our staffing lies to adapting to a shifting modern workforce. The strength of our department lies in the partnership that we have between our full-time and our part-time personnel, which is half of it's made up of our former corporation personnel who moved over from the volunteer positions. This collaborative model has been essential to our daily operations. Our paid on-premise team currently staffs that 45%, which saves the city approximately $2 million every year. Now, this is a great model, and I want you to understand that we will continue to support this model and continue to save a lot of money for the residents. But the staffing, again, is fueled by the combination of former corporation personnel, people we've recruited from the Next Gen program, a program that Sun Prairie started with Madison College. I don't know if a lot of you remember the name of Nancy Everson, but her and I created a program at Madison College for recruiting personnel, and that's where we get most of our younger staff. But the problem is this staffing model is no longer sustainable. It'll keep up for a few years, but we need to incrementally, like I've always built this department, incrementally increase our full-time staffing. The problem that we're having is today, great young people, millennials and Gen Zs, they do a great job coming into our department. But unfortunately, in the police, fire, and EMS service, Chief Warwick can attest to this, we have very few people who are now applying for this type of job. It's a generational issue. It's not something we can change. Today's young folks, they value a work-life balance. They don't want to work weekends. They don't want to work evenings. They want to be at home with their family. They're family driven, and their lives are based around their family, not around the job, like people with the same color of hair that I have always did. We were work valued people, and today they're life valued people. And fortunately, that'll make a better life for them, their families, their marriages, and everything else. So, moving forward, we will continue to work this model as long as possible. But it's ironic. We brought on 9 brand new paid on premise personnel and 6 months ago, and 5 of them are already gone. We keep these young folks for 1, 2, 3 years, but then they're looking to move on to a career and go to another department. But they are far and few between. My older firefighters that come over from the corporation, they're slowly starting to walk away, and replacing them in that experience is getting harder and harder every year. We, as a department, have always been fiscally responsible. To open up Station 2 here, I got a grant, what's called the SAFER grant, that supported 3/4 of the pay for all of that staffing to open up Station 2 and move that forward. So now that we have 2 operational fire stations, one on the east side and one on the west side. But as I said, our fiscal responsibility has always been very, very important to me. For the EMS department, a lot of people don't understand, but they bring $2.5 million of revenue into the city a year. Our regionalization brings us a lot of money between the towns, and that helps us move our staffing and everything forward. We also get some money every year from what's called the 2%, and that is pending on if we do all of our inspections and do all of our training in a year, we get a quarter of $254,245 annually if we make that happen. Last year, we also got the FAP grant for 166,990, and we also got the GMT grant for 177,000. That's to help make up some of the difference that we lose when we're getting paid through Medicare. So that's a total of $3.4 million of savings on the fire and the EMS side every year. And that's without the $2 million worth of savings that we do by staffing our paid on call. It's become a scheduling nightmare for us. We have to schedule 7 part-time people every day. Times 365. Again, it's very difficult for us. So basically what I'm saying, folks, at the end of the day, we can't keep on kicking the can down the road, because we're going to get to a point where we need more firefighters. We have 17 full-time firefighters. We need about 16 more to round off that shift. And if we don't start working on that incrementally, we're going to pass this down the road to the next generation, and it's going to continue to be a problem. I'm going to turn this over to Chief Warwick. I've spoken enough, but I will be available for questions at the end. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief Garrison. It's an honor to speak to all of you tonight. My name is Kevin Warwick, and I'm the police chief here in the city. And we come to you to just talk about the growth. Just as much as the city's growing, the police department's growing. I'm proud to announce we're almost at fully staffed. We're slotted for 63 sworn officers. We're hiring our 62nd officer on March 16th, and the first week of April, we'll probably be at 63. So we're going to be at fully staffed, and we're asking in this public safety referendum, or the referendum in general, to add 1 additional officer. And the reason we need that 1 additional officer is to keep up with growth. Initially, we put in for 8 officers, but we know that we have to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars and play well with other city departments, because I too would not run into a fire for that short hourly rate. And thankfully, we've got great people that want to do that. But as we work together with all city departments, we thought it was fiscally responsible to add 1 officer. We did a staffing study in 2020 where, using 2020 data, that study said we needed to add 9 officers. Since then, we've added 7 since 2020. If we did that same staffing study in 2026, I'm sure that we would say that we probably need to add 7 or 8 more officers. And when we look at the numbers, I want you to remember 1.57. Right now, the city of Sun Prairie has 1.57 officers per 1,000 residents. The best practice in policing is 2.3 per 1,000 residents. Now, 2.3 is unrealistic because there's no way that we could afford that. Most municipalities cannot. But when you look at our law enforcement agencies that surround us, the city of Sun Prairie is ranked 8th, with Waunakee and Fitchburg being lower than us. When we look at municipalities of the same population between 35,000 and 40,000, we are also ranked 8th. That means there are many other agencies above us that have the 1.7, 1.8, 1.9 per capita. Now, I want to reassure you, everything that, if you remember nothing from me speaking tonight, today, tomorrow, if you call us, we will be there. We have mutual aid agreements. We have the ability to call in more officers. And thankfully, and with a lot of great work from a lot of great members of this department, we live in a very safe community. Please don't ever forget that. We can walk down every single sidewalk, every single road, hopefully away from the cars, that and know that you live in a very safe community. And the members that work for us, all 61 officers right now, 63 soon to become April, will be working very hard to keep this community safe and holding people responsible for the acts that they commit. But this one officer that we're asking for does make a difference. This one officer is going to be put into the patrol ranks to help ease the call volume. We take about 70 calls per day, 20 to 23 to 25,000 calls per year, and that one officer is going to help take calls, help reduce the call time of when somebody calls the police and then has an officer on their doorstep. Also, there is a mental health component to this that anytime we can add an additional officer, that eases the workload of all the officers. There are a lot of people working very hard and sometimes long shifts. Now, over the past 5, 6 years, just like Chief Garrison said, the law enforcement profession has struggled and went through ebbs and flows with recruiting. But with us being almost fully staffed come the first week of April, and then us getting fully operational at that number, we are going to continue to provide that great service. But that 1.57, I really think I want to stress that number. I think as a city and as a police department specifically, we have to work and look 5, 10 years down the road for the next generation of leaders, generation of people sitting in this seat, to make sure that they're set up for success. And if we don't do that, then we're going to put them at the disadvantage and, most importantly, put them at risk of falling further behind that 1.57 number. So thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for letting us serve you, and especially me being your chief here. We are, again, live in a very safe community and be very thankful. And I'm very thankful for all of your engagement this evening. Thank you. I'll turn it back over to Aaron.
Right. Mr. Mayor, do you want to lead the questions?
Of course. Yeah, I want to, excuse me, I want to thank the chiefs and Aaron for your input, and just want to let the participants know that an important part of these referendum town halls is not only to educate, but also to be here to answer any questions you have. So if you do have a question, please click on the raise hand option, and the host will promote you to speak one at a time. If you don't see the raised hand option on your device, you can click on the 3 dots at the bottom of the window, and the option should appear. So Don is our IT director, and he's running the promotion. Don, do you see anybody out there that wishes to ask a question?
Yep, I want to promote the first person.
Thank you.
Long time resident. I believe if you unmute yourself, I believe you can speak.
Don, can you unmute them, please?
I think they're unmuted, but I'm not.
Yep, they should be unmuted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
We can't hear you.
No.
Okay, why don't we come back to longtime resident? Are there any others out there, Don?
Looks like
I want to
Harry.
promote Harry.
Hello,
Okay.
can you hear me?
Yep, we
We
can
can
hear
hear
you.
you.
Okay,
Thank you for
thank you.
joining.
My question, thank you all for being here tonight and for sharing this information. Something just doesn't seem quite right if our population's growing, but somehow we're losing money. It seems like are there no economies of scale with this growth? And, the levy process, that might be part of the problem, I'm sure, but I'm not sure it's a whole problem. I mean, what about all these new businesses and apartments? And aren't these people paying some kind of a fair share, or are the tax incentives that we offer to get this growth essentially being paid for by the homeowners?
Yeah.
Great question, Harry. Do you want me to take that, Aaron? Do you want to?
Yeah, go ahead, Mayor.
Yeah. First of all, to answer your question, Harry, apartment folks, it's a misnomer that if you rent, you don't pay tax. And tax on a apartment building is much greater, as you can imagine, than a single family home. And that cost is passed on to the renters. We have had some apartment growth lately. And however, that has not been enough, as Aaron pointed out earlier, to keep up with to meet our levy limit. As far as how did we get in this situation, I think a lot of people, as Aaron had pointed out, don't understand that the levy limit was set in place without regard to inflation. I think we've all gone out and tried to purchase additional, whether it's goods and services, groceries, or whatever, and they've all gone up. So inflation has driven our costs up beyond what we've been able to sustain. Along with that, if you go out for additional contracted services, those costs are up. If you go out for asphalt to do the roads, those costs have gone up. So we've been impacted by a lot of outside factors, including tariffs, which nobody had any idea that was coming at the time. So the costs have risen faster than we can keep up with. In addition, we've had to make concessions to keep our talent, to train new people costs a lot. So we try and keep our employees here on site and not be poached by other municipalities. So all this comes into play. I'm not sure if you have any specific questions around that, but we'd be happy to answer that. Aaron, do you have anything to add?
Am I still, I would have some more, but I want to be respectful of others' time. So please take others' questions and perhaps circle back to me. Thank you.
Okay. Before we leave Harry, Aaron, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is obviously we are underinvested in some areas, as the fire chief had mentioned. When I came to the city 13 years ago, we had 5 full-time firefighters. Now we have 17 full-time firefighters, as the chief has mentioned. So we've made investments in strategic areas that come at a cost, no question about that. But I think all would agree that 5 full-time firefighters for a community of 30,000 at that time is not anywhere near sufficient. And so there's areas of city government that we've needed to catch up on that were not invested in prior, that we needed to invest in, and those things come at a cost. In addition to that, there is a misnomer out there. As the mayor mentioned, there's one misnomer about the apartments and paying taxes, but there's also a misnomer that growth covers the full cost of all of the services that the city provides, and that's just not the case. Residents that have been here benefit from the additional, whether they be firefighters, EMS staff, police officers, infrastructure, as well as new growth. And so those costs are shared with the folks that are coming into the community, certainly, but they're also shared with those that have been in the community. So I should mention that. In addition to that, we have had some forces that, in addition to inflation, that have affected our service delivery and increased costs, including the relocation of the emergency room, St. Mary's emergency room, which required us to add an additional ambulance, which is 7 full-time paramedics. So there's lots of factors that influence the city's costs. The mayor mentioned a number of the key ones, but I wanted to throw in a couple more. So I'm hoping longtime resident, we have you. Okay.
Harry, did that answer your questions for now? Or
I promoted longtime resident.
okay, thank you. Thank you, Harry, for those questions.
Longtime resident, are you able to speak with us? Looks like we're still having difficulty.
Yeah.
Can they type in their question?
Yeah, if you type it to the host, which would be Sun Prairie 2, I can relay the question to the panel as well.
Okay, do we have anybody else out there, Don?
We have no hands raised currently, so if anybody else would like to speak, feel free to raise your hands or send a chat to Sun Prairie 2.
There's one.
Perfect.
The JR.
Voting JR.
There we go.
Yes, JR. Good evening.
Hi, thanks for listening to my question. I couldn't help but notice you didn't answer the part of the question, the last questioners about businesses that have come into the city and are they paying their fair rate?
So if I could take that one, Mr. Mayor, are you
Oh, of course.
with it? Yeah, so when businesses come into the community, everybody pays the same tax rate. So there's not situations where a business does not pay taxes. So the rate goes across the entire city, and the businesses all pay that same rate. What you often hear about in the community is that there are incentives sometimes offered by communities. Sun Prairie's not alone, it's a very common practice, to incentivize businesses to come to your community. It is, as you can imagine, it is very competitive when you're trying to locate a business within your community. So there are businesses that the city has incentivized to come to Sun Prairie, just like DeForest does, just like Cottage Grove does, Madison. Many communities offer incentives to come. How that works is they pay their taxes just like everybody else does, but a portion of their taxes can be rebated back to them as an incentive for them to come. Eventually, those incentives expire and they pay the full costs, and there is no rebate back to them. It is very common practice in economic development. It's one of the few tools that we have to attract businesses to our community. Now, why would we want to do that? Why would we want to incentivize businesses to come? One, they offer property tax value when the incentives expire. They employ people within our community, and they offer, in some cases, destinations where they bring people into the community that may shop at other businesses that may or may not be receiving incentives. So it is an economic driver for our community. We are very conservative about the use of those incentives, but certainly we do at times offer incentives for businesses to come into our community. It's a policy decision. If we were to not offer incentives, some of those businesses will locate elsewhere. And there's an impact, obviously, if that happens. We don't get that property tax value, job creation, and may not benefit from those businesses being in our community where it would bring other businesses around it. So happy to talk about that more, but it's not something we don't talk about or hide from. It's a very common practice for communities to offer incentives for businesses to come. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, to piggyback on what Aaron said, JR, and this might be getting too much in the weeds, but is as far as taxing a business, a home, or any new property, our city, not alone, it's a state rule that we tax according to what that property looks like at the beginning of the year. So if on January 1st, that's a bare lot, but let's say in July you have a large business put up there or a home, it still gets taxed at the end of the year as a bare lot. So there is a little bit of a lag in the way that any municipality can collect taxes. Not sure if that added to the answer you were looking for, but just wanted to throw that out there.
Thanks. I think I was more interested in the language around incentives and why we're considering continuing to offer them in a time when everybody else in the city is being asked to tighten their belts. But that was just a follow-up to the last question. My real question if I could, is why are we spending money on luxury projects in the city when we can't pay police officers and firemen? Why do we pay $16 million from the city's bank account to renovate the library, build a makerspace, and an amphitheater that I'm not sure anybody was really clamoring for when we can't afford to pay cops and firemen? And by your own words, you said you've seen this coming for years in advance. So why are we still spending on things like that?
Yeah, that's a fair question. Do you want me to take that, Aaron? Do you want to?
Yep, go ahead, Mayor, and I'm happy to follow up.
Okay. Yeah, I'll specifically answer the library question, JR. As part of the Dane County library system, we have certain standards that we agree to. Those standards, if we don't keep those up, we lose out on, I'll call it a rebate. It's an amount that comes back to us from Dane County. And that amount is also one of the areas that it's triggered on is keeping up with the growth of the city. So as the city grows, you have to keep up in the library. So we needed to expand in order to keep those amounts coming back to us. It's a pretty substantial amount. Is it like 250,000? And I know Swetha's on here. Swetha, if you want to jump in.
Sure,
please.
yes.
You can explain that.
Yeah.
Swetha's our library director, by the way.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Yeah, so the library is exempt from Dane County library tax, and that is the tax that we're exempt from maintaining standards. And that is somewhere in, it obviously changes year to year and goes up year to year, but it's about 1.2 million or so. I'd have to do the math on that, but 1.2 or 1.4 million is what we're exempt from for maintaining the standards. The other part that Mayor Stocker mentioned was reimbursements, and we receive reimbursements from Maine County and adjacent counties for the services we provide to residents that are not Sun Prairie municipality residents. And in 2026, that total was $925,000. So about a third of our budget comes from the reimbursement. As far as the library's expansion and renovation project, as Mayor Stocker said, we knew we were coming to a point where we couldn't really add any more materials to our collection. And in order to keep up with standards and public library service needs and evolving needs, we did in 2018 start an architectural analysis. And that analysis was almost a year and a half. And we had a large advisory task force of more than about 50 or 60 residents participated in the advisory task force meetings. And from those task force meetings, we coordinated several Spark sessions with the entire community. And then those Spark sessions led to a conceptual design. And that conceptual design was what we were able to present to the library board as well as city council as to presenting the needs of the library. We had an aging facility that needed a lot of mechanical work addressed, and we were able to address those mechanical needs along with the public library service needs through this project. So I hope that helps to answer the question. I know with the financial, more of the financial questions, I think Aaron Oppenheimer would probably be best to answer those specifically.
Yeah, if I could, I'll just add in there is that the situation isn't that we expanded the library and cannot pay city staff, whether they be police officers or other staff. Capital borrowing, which is what the library, when we go out and borrow funds to build facilities, does not count against the operating costs of the city in the sense of hiring staff, adding to city staff. So they're two different things. And We've been adding staff. We've been adding police officers, specifically one police officer a year for the last, I believe, 8 years. And so we've been trying to add staff, but unfortunately, with state imposed levy limits, we're not able to add staff on our own. We have to go out for referendum for that staffing. And so it's not a change in the financial operations of the city in the sense of how we are adding staff and proceeding with investments in the community. It's a different way of doing it where we go out to referendum and it'll be up to the residents to directly decide whether we're able to add those additional staff members. So it's more of a mechanics of how we are moving forward versus what we are investing in as a community. So I just wanted to maybe state again, it's not a financial misstep or decisions that the city has made that have brought us to the point of referendum. It is the way the system is designed, which is why all the other communities are in the same boat as we are. So hopefully that covered all of the ground. I see Ellen has a hand up.
Looks like Alder Owens wanted to say something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
I
go
just
ahead, Rex.
wanted to, thank you. I just wanted to add that the funds for the amphitheater did not involve any city funds at all. That was money that was donated for that purpose. And the second point is that the Library Foundation raised $3.5 million for the project, which is then will go to the city to offset part of the capital costs. So there are a number of financial resources that were used for the library project.
Thank you, Rex.
Yeah, and thanks. And I didn't want to just pick on the library. I just want to point out, and that money, maybe it doesn't come from the same referendum process. It's still coming out of our pockets, right? Long term.
Yes, it still has
So-
impacts on.
So
residents.
perhaps it would be more palatable to referendum the police and the fire department if we weren't also paying for a school and a library. And I don't even know anything else, but is the city looking at being more conservative or responsible on future projects that it takes on to quote unquote improve the quality of life in the city, when not only the city people have to tighten their belts and keep up with the rate of inflation, but so do the citizens of the city. And we're not getting raises either from our companies and our employers.
That's a good point, JR. And recognizing this, as far as the budget that was brought forward to the council this year, there was no additional staff that was placed on there. There was staff requested, but we knew that, our finances wouldn't allow that. And so I was happy that the council did not initially approve any staff positions. There was a couple of them that were added, but those were just minimal. The other part of the question was that in our budget going forward, as Aaron pointed out, we've done some due diligence in cutting out $1 million. That $1 million, I want to reemphasize, was not filling current vacant positions along with cost sharing of benefits. So we actually are doing due diligence to see where we can cut. And I would welcome anybody to come down to City Hall here into my office and actually comb through the budget and point out any areas where you think we should cut further. I'd be happy to do that.
Thanks. That's all I've got for now.
Okay. Thanks, JR.
JR.
Great questions.
Thank you.
Ellen.
Voting Ellen.
I think you just muted yourself, Ellen, by the way. There you go.
There you go.
Hello.
Hello, Ellen.
Hello, Ellen.
Hi. So you said you cut the million. From what I remember in the original survey, it was always 3.95 deficit. So is that still the money you're looking for?
The original survey had a $4.5 million cost to continue and over 9 million, including the 4.5 million in additional things. So additional staffing, as the chief mentioned, both chiefs mentioned, there was a lot more staffing, public safety staffing in the survey questions. But the cost to continue, cost to keep services going was 4.5 million. Now it has been reduced to 3.5 million, and the additional staffing has been reduced significantly from 8 police officers to 1, 12
Right.
firefighters to 2.
Right.
Mhm.
And then, sorry, because some of my questions have been answered along the way.
Oh, sure.
And so, like, I think my problem is there an end in sight? Like, I'm more than happy to, provide the money for police and fire services, but I feel like what I kind of call Sun Prairie West, like everything in the new complex over there, I feel like we got the old folks over here in the original part of town, like, are getting stuck with the brunt of that. And so I know you said you give the incentives to these apartments to come in, and then they get their rebates or whatnot. And I know a lot of the resources are going to that part of town. So just in my feeling is that, like I said, the Sun Prairians of the old part of town are basically funding the other side. And had you annexed that out, right, and created Sun Prairie West, how would that have been funded? And would it have been able to be funded? Like, can you create a city on its own, or are you relying on all the old taxpayers to do that?
Trying to parse through that, Ellen. I'm going to try
Yeah, me too.
I'm going to try my best.
Those are a lot of good questions, Ellen.
Yeah. So when you see multifamily going up in the city, they are not all incentivized. So that's the first. Let's deal with that piece first. In addition, if you look at our top 10 taxpayers in Sun Prairie, most of them, not all of them, but most of them are apartment properties. So maybe an example that I could describe is if you've been in Sun Prairie a little while, and I'm not sure how long, Ellen, you've been in Sun Prairie, but you may remember the Hanley site that was on Main Street that was redeveloped into the Catalyst apartment building. That building is $20 million building. So it takes a lot of homes to provide $20 million in property value. And if you spread those homes out over all the roads, water, sewer, everything that it takes to capture that value, that is a significant cost. So oftentimes we hear apartments are a drain on city resources. But when you think about it from an infrastructure standpoint, there was not much infrastructure that needed to be put in for the redevelopment of the Hanley site, but it brings in a significant amount of property tax. And so what we often hear is that apartments and density is the wrong direction from a cost of services. And there's a lot of analysis out there. You can read about it through Strong Towns is one independent source where you're hearing a lot of infill and density from communities is how you can get value versus sprawling subdivisions that require a lot of infrastructure and maintenance. So just wanted to maybe go through that a little bit. As far as dividing the community, that's not how we look at it. We look at it as one Sun Prairie. So there wouldn't be any dividing of the community, whether that is in real terms like two cities or even in terms of, the west side gets one thing, east side gets another thing. I guess that's not how we look at it. We want the entire community to be successful.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yep, go ahead.
So just for example, the last referendum for the high school,
Yes.
basically build Sun Prairie West High School. If I had children that were high school age, could they go to West High School if I live on the east side?
We're not responsible for the school system, so I don't know how that all works, and I don't want to speak on their behalf. I know that the schools have tried to make sure that the amenities at one school are consistent with another. So I believe they invested $5 million. I'm going off of memory. So again, it's not my area, but I believe they invested $5 million in the East High School to make sure the amenities were similar or comparable. So I know they've tried to make those investments, but again, not my area, not my expertise. So I can't fully answer that.
Okay.
Did we cover, Ellen, everything you were looking for? I don't want to leave you.
Well, so you opened, or when I clicked on, you were opening by saying this is just, one of many referendums. So at what point
Yes.
is this just the new normal and we all just have to suck it up and accept it?
Well, I think there's two things that you're probably referencing as new normal. One is that government costs go up every single year, just like in your home, and if you have a business, our costs go up every single year. So if the question is, will government costs go up every year? Yes, unless government changes some way, meaning the size of government, what we offer as far as services, and those things. So assuming that is constant, yes, that cost goes up every year.
All
And
right, but if population is growing too, will it ever meet, right? Will it ever intersect
no,
government and population?
no, no, it will continue to increase. Uh, you-
Was Sun Prairie ever self-sufficient where we didn't need extra, extra, extra?
well, I don't know I'm not sure what extra means, but if you're
Well,
meaning,
now there's a road tax or wheels tax that I
yep,
just paid,
yep,
which I asked about that to my alder, and he said that goes to road repair
that's
and
correct.
maintenance.
That's right.
But I don't know that the roads are necessarily being repaired the way they should be. I mean, maybe it's in the docket and ready, will be taking place.
Sure. I'm not sure which roads you mean, Ellen, but I think we have pretty good quality roads, but I get the wheel tax has to be used for transportation. It is another revenue source that the city has available to it. So you're seeing more communities implement them, including Fitchburg, Madison, obviously us, but other communities are implementing them. And that's partly due to levy limits. Cities are using what revenue sources they have available to them. And in Wisconsin, it's very limited. We're not allowed to have a sales tax or an income tax or other types of fees. So you're seeing more and more communities implement wheel taxes. As far as I'm hoping the part that I haven't answered is, will you see referendums from the city at some interval, 3 years, 5 years, 6 years? And the answer is likely yes.
Okay. And last question, do you know why the state does the limit or
I
has the limit?
I don't know exactly, but my hypothesis is that legislators received concerns from residents about the amount of property tax and limited it through levy limits, but allowed an escape hatch for residents that were willing to vote additional tax through referendums to be able to do so, but knowing that the referendum process would be very difficult. So that's my guess, is that they were hearing from constituents with concerns about property tax, and put a cap in place, but allowed referendums to occur.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, Ellen, before you jump off, just a couple of things I was making notes on. As far as the roads, just to clarify, the city has roads, but then also I just came down Windsor Street yesterday, between McDonald's and Pickleball Kingdom, and those roads are state DOT roads, and so we try and help them out, but they're not officially our roads. So we do our best to maintain what's ours. Some of it is out of our jurisdiction, if you want to talk, I guess, as far as
Gotcha.
who's responsible for. The other thing to address is having a Sun Prairie East and a Sun Prairie West. I think what we've done is we've kept the city together because we have an economy of scale. If we had two separate cities, the cost to the residents in both would be substantially more because you would have two different governments, and you would have costs that couldn't be shared between the entire 13 square miles we call Sun Prairie. So I think that's
Right.
another good reason for it.
No, when I came here, a lot of all this development started, and so that's why I wondered, just who's been paying for it all, and because I would think that if you are incentivized to come here, you should also be responsible for providing certain, sidewalks or the roads. Because I know a lot of builders, they build the homes, they make all the money, and then they leave without the sidewalks. Wasn't my problem. It wasn't in the contract. And then we get left to do it. So maybe the negotiating needs to be better. But these guys will build it and they want to build it, but
Yeah, I think those are good questions.
Yeah.
We try to get the developer to pay as much of the costs as possible. I think the incentivizing, there's more discussion about incentivizing than there's actually city incentivizing. I think the sidewalk issue is actually a little different in front of homes. That there was a time where the city wasn't requiring that sidewalk to be put in, and so it wasn't. But obviously that standard has changed, and the city now requires developers to put in the sidewalk. So those are different time periods that we're talking about. But now the developer does pay the cost when a home is built. They pay the cost of sidewalk. Obviously, that cost is passed on to the owner when they purchase the home, but it is required now.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Ellen. Yep.
Thank you, Ellen. Okay, Don, anybody else?
Not have any hands raised. Oh, I have one. I'll promote Mark.
Hello, Mark. Looks like you're on mute.
Oh, can you
There
hear
you
me?
are. We can
Oh,
now.
great. Thanks. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. And I'm a longtime resident, over 40 years, raised the family here. It's been a great place to live. Just a couple of things. In that 40 years, I've watched our taxes go up year on year, inflation rate or better, constantly. I've watched growth, one of the fastest growing cities in Wisconsin at that, if you want to be proud of that. And the problem is, as I listen to this presentation, as I've been reading up on the issue that the city is having right now, I think there's a problem with the mindset of this city. And Aaron, I think you even said it, that, development seems to rule, and it's development over residents. It is the feeling I get, that we're subsidizing all this new growth at a rate that I think is not sustainable and is somewhat uncontrolled. You've seen this coming for 20 years, and yet nothing's been done. And now we have a referendum in front of us that basically is a patch. So my question is, it appears there's an issue with revenue. It appears there's an issue with controlling growth. So what's the plan going forward? Is this going to be every 3 years? Is this going to be referendum after referendum? Or will things change? Will we have some new formula or a new mindset finally?
I guess I'll try to take that on, Mark, is that, even communities that don't grow have to go out for referendum. So we can attribute it to growth, but the system is the way the system is. So if you had no growth, let's say zero, got it down to zero, you'd have no net new construction. Cost of government would still go up every year, and you'd have to go out to referendum to resolve it. So whether you grow or don't grow, you're going out for referendum. So there's communities that are in the state of Wisconsin that no longer can afford major services like EMS service. We're not talking about frills, parks, or whatever we might want to call frills. They can't even afford public safety because they are at levy limits. They know that a referendum won't pass, and so they're stuck. So yes, under the current system, those communities with little to no growth will have to go out for referendum, and we'll have to go out for referendum as well if we want to maintain the services that we want. As far as too much growth and I'm not sure how to measure too much growth. So I suppose that is in the eye of the beholder as to what is too much, what's the right type of growth. We have residents that want specific things. Mayor may mention this IKEA or Trader Joe's, or they want certain amenities. in the community. And so for, they might welcome that particular growth, but maybe not other growth. And so I'm not sure how to necessarily address what is the right amount of growth or the right type of growth.
Yeah, what I'd like to add on to that, Mark, is when you look at your tax bill, and I think everybody takes a look at that and knows that, we're about 35% of your tax bill. 47% is the school system. They've gone up 14 times for referendums. This is our first. So I would say we've been very fiscally responsible. But I do want to, if everybody has just a few minutes, I want to talk to you a little bit about growth. I have a son who lives in Ohio. I try and get out there for his birthday, which is in October. And a number of years back, you may have heard this story before, but a number of years back, I was out there for his birthday, and one of the news feeds that night was from a community about 50 miles from where he lives. And it was a Thursday night. They were having a homecoming parade. This community had basically been anchored by a huge business that was in their community. And there's a lot of communities that have a large business. They have satellite businesses supporting that business. So the whole idea that night was that they were letting everybody know that this large business moved out. When the business moved out, a lot of the satellite businesses moved out. And so instead of in a growth trajectory, this municipality was in a decline trajectory. And the whole reason for this was that this community was having a homecoming parade. However, there would not be a football game on Friday night because the community couldn't afford uniforms for their football players. That really hit home for me. I cannot imagine Sun Prairie in any capacity being short of sporting or athletic uniforms for any sport. So looking at the two alternatives, I would much rather be in a growth mode than a decline mode, just from that example alone. Any other questions, Mark? I thank you for your questions. Great questions.
Thank you, Mark.
Well, again, it's not so much a question as I don't see a plan going forward. How much growth is too much growth? I don't want this to be the number one growing city in the state, in the region. And I also have to wonder about revenue. Again, and I've heard this from many residents, when new development comes in, new businesses, they don't seem to be paying their fair share. We're all subsidizing this. I know there's been, one thing I've not heard anything about is these big boxes that have come in. And I know that there's been litigation because they've claimed the dark site loophole. And that could be lots of revenue. So maybe that's what I'd like to know about. What's been happening on the revenue side?
Yeah, sure, Mark. So when you think of like a big box to Walmart, the city did not incentivize that development. Menards, we did not incentivize that development. Target's before my time, but I don't believe that we incentivized that development. So many of the big boxes that you hear about, the city wasn't involved in incentivizing them. Some we did. There's no question about that. As far as the dark store loophole, that is no longer a thing. The state Supreme Court has closed that, theory. It was the dark store theory. But the businesses do challenge their assessments every single year. That from their perspective, that's just good business to challenge their tax assessment. And that's something that the city battles with on an annual basis. They're pushing to get a lower assessment, obviously, and we're pushing for what we believe to be an accurate assessment of their properties. So they certainly do that. It's not just big box stores, it's smaller stores that do it as well. And so that is something that we have to navigate. But we also know that our residents want access to those stores. They go to those stores, I assume, and are customers of those stores. And so them being in close proximity is a benefit to the residents. And obviously they are paying property taxes versus vacant land. In some cases, we are incentivizing those stores, and in many cases, we are not. So I'm hoping that answers.
Yeah, and I think as far as Prairie Lakes goes, I think the only incentivized business other than the hotel was the Marcus Theater. Like those are the only two in that region that we've given incentives to.
Cabela's would be another one.
Oh, that's right. Cabela's is right
Yeah,
next door. Yeah.
those would be the three.
Yeah.
Look, I appreciate the chance to speak. Again, Aaron, I would challenge you. Maybe you think that bringing in new stores, you think that the residents want these kind of things. I would tell you, residents don't want higher taxes. They don't want to be taxed out of their houses. So again, I'd like you to challenge the mindset that you and the city have regarding growth, as opposed to taking care of residents' needs. So thanks for the opportunity.
Yep. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark.
Believe longtime
Try a
resident.
long-time resident again. So
Yeah.
promoting long time right now.
Did they type in their question at all or?
No, hand raised.
Okay.
Hello.
Oh, there
Can
we
you hear me?
go.
Yeah. Yep. We
Now we can.
My sense of the referendum is that the survey determined the Sun Prairie taxpayers are against the recommended tax increases and want the focus of taxpayer dollars to be on the basics, such as the first responder services, public works. And so I feel as if this referendum is being framed to target first responders in order to get the additional funding that's desired. And maybe I'm wrong on that, but all in all, everything I've been hearing is that the residents don't like the tax increases and want to focus on the basics. So what else, where else can expenses be cut? And I looked at the budget a little bit. I didn't go through the whole thing, but I saw on there something replace Badger books, $48,000. Who's getting Badger books? Can that be cut? Are there similar costs that can be cut out? The bus
Badger-
service, I heard in the prior meeting that people said the bus service isn't used and that's an excessive cost. Social programs. Do we need all those social programs? And my feeling, no, I don't even agree with a lot of those social programs. So I think I feel as if we're framing this as if you don't give us this money, we're going to cut the services that you want, versus let's look at those other fatty things and get those out of the budget.
Badger books are what we use for the elections. So that's state mandated. So we have to keep up with that technology. Aaron, do you want to take any of the others?
Yeah, I'm not sure, obviously when you look at the budget is the largest policy document that the city council approves annually. And so, if different individuals looked at the budget, they would determine different priorities. And so as far as determining what are the things that are overfunded or underfunded, that each individual might look at that differently and make different determinations. So it would be hard for me to say when you talk about something being overfunded, this is what it is, or this is something that's underfunded. This is what it is. I think from the survey, we shrunk down the referendum considerably, both the cost to continue, which does include public safety in it, public safety just to maintain it. Even if we weren't to add staff, their salaries go up every single year. Their health care goes up every single year. All of their contracts for services go up every single year. And so when we say $3.5 million for costs to continue, that includes a significant portion public safety. Public safety is over 50% of the city budget. We are putting our dollars in large part towards core government services, and there's more than just public safety, obviously public works and snow removal and all the other things that the city does. The referendum additions are far smaller than what the city had sought. Less police officers, obviously substantially less firefighters, and we are underinvested in public safety. So that is an impact. And we did reduce $1 million, over $1 million in our expenditures to bring down that service. That's not that cost to maintain city services. There is an impact of that. City employees will have to cover that loss and do more, not just do more with less, but we'll have to take on 700 more residents every single year for the next 3 years over that referendum with less staff than we had going into the referendum. So we are trying our best to be fiscally responsible and do more with less.
Well, something I saw was a home buyer grant, and I'm a mortgage underwriter, and the grant that Sun Prairie was going to offer, off the top of my head, I think it was $60,000 per homeowner. And that far exceeds what even Madison is offering. I think theirs is like 35,000. So why are we offering so much?
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I believe it's 60,000 total for the program. Three houses at $20,000 a piece. Does that sound right based on what you've read? And that's coming out of our affordable housing fund, which would not be eligible for the city's general operating costs. So, and the reason we're in that space is many residents have asked us to address housing affordability, helping people become homeowners within the community. So I'm hoping that helps.
Did that answer the question?
Yeah, it sounded like I was going to promote Paul Esser.
Okay.
If you have long-time resident, I can promote you again if you have another thing. I apologize.
Good evening, Paul.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity and thank you for doing this. My name is Paul Esser. I've been the mayor for 10 years before Mayor Stocker was elected last April. And I wish to say, I have a couple of comments, and I wish to start by saying that I support this referendum. This referendum is far better than the alternative, which would be some drastic cuts of city funding, city expenditures. And since most of the city costs are payroll, that means the city would have to release a number of positions. And that would not be good for the continuity in this city government or for the quality of life of those of us that live here. So when people approach me and ask me what my recommendation to them is on how they should vote on this, I always tell them, definitely vote for this referendum because the alternative is just too distasteful. You just won't like that. But I have something further that I wish to say. This isn't the referendum I would prefer that was before us. I would prefer a referendum that continues the quality of life that we have developed in this city and continues increasing the staffing for police, fire, EMS that you've already heard about from the chiefs, but also for the library. We need to finish staffing the makerspace for public works. As the city grows, there's greater needs in public works, and there are needs in other areas, the media center and the museum. All of these things maintain the quality of life that we have and continue those. 12,000 people have moved to Sun Prairie in the last 10 years. 8,000 of them new residents, and then 2 to 4,000 that have come to the city that bought existing homes. Those people knew what the costs were in Sun Prairie. They also knew the quality of life, and they're expecting that we're going to maintain that. So I take exception with the survey coming back saying it reflects the community, and the community wants us to cut taxes and cut administration in some other areas. I think the survey got it wrong. I think the survey had a negative tone and it therefore elicited negative responses. And those negative responses are not a true picture of this community. I'm saying that it is not in our best interest, us as residents and taxpayers in this community, to begin cutting the funding of city services in this community. It's those high quality of city services that continue to cause our property values to rise. And those rising property values are far exceeding what the taxes are that you're being asked to pay. Now, granted, those rising property values are not cash in hand that you can use to pay the taxes. But they're going to be waiting for you down the road when the time comes that you want to sell your property and move to Florida, or you wish to stay in this community and you need it for your retirement. And then it is going to be a huge windfall for you that you have built up over the years that you've been in this community. I think it's short-sighted of us to think the best interest is to save a few bucks in taxes from year to year. You saw the numbers that Aaron had. It's $80 a year that you're being asked for. You save that $80, you won't even know where it went. But these rising property values are really going to be beneficial to you. And in the works of doing this, we're creating a community where the next generation will want to live. And if that's part of your family and kids in your household that may stay in this community, it behooves you to continue to support this. And I think furthermore, we have to look at what some of the things that we've been doing in the past that aren't going to continue. We've been adding a police officer a year for each of the 10 years. Now with the referendum, we're talking about one officer for 3 years, one officer in total for 3 years. We're actually stepping back. We're doing worse than we've been doing before. And the same thing with the fire department. The chief told you the fire department used to be this corporation. It's really the volunteer fire department in the past, where people only got some compensation when they went out on a call. Now we're changing those to people that will be paid, because then they'll be there and we don't have to worry about staffing in the future. It maintains the quality of that service and will maintain your property. And then the EMS is just a function of the growth, which Aaron showed you earlier is dramatic. And it is coming because the county is growing. All these things put together really tell me we need to continue to invest in this community the way we have been, because that's going to give us all the returns that we need and want to have. Cutting back on funding the city government and cutting back on taxes is simply not in our best interest. It's short-sighted. Once you cut these positions, you'll never get them back because the cost is so great. You need to stay with the plan and continue this city and allow it to thrive, and we will all be best served by that. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
We have
Voting
Ellen.
Ellen.
Yep.
Ellen or Ann? Looks like Ann.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, there's
Can you
Ellen.
hear me?
Yep, we can hear you
Yes.
well.
Sorry, I had one more question. If this doesn't pass, what happens?
Yeah, the city council will need to reduce $3.5 million out of the operating budget by the 2027 budget, which will be approved in November of this year. So they'll need to meet over the summer and determine which services programs are reduced or eliminated prior to January 1st, 2027. So that'll be decided by the new city council that would be seated at the second meeting in April.
So
And
they wouldn't reassess and just try to get it that way?
no, revaluation does not change how much the city takes in revenue. That only looks at the values of everybody's property and makes sure that they're assessed equitably, but it does not increase the revenue that the city receives.
Yeah, to
Okay.
add to that, Ellen, to answer that question, the council will be meeting, but since labor, payroll, whatever you want to call it, is 76% of our budget, you can imagine where a lot of the cuts will come from.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think maybe one quick thing to add to Ellen's question, because it did come up earlier, is the city specifically did not identify what programs and services that we would cut as a result of the referendum failing if that were to occur, because we did not want it to be threatening to our residents, saying that if you don't vote for this, you'll lose this or lose that. We did not want to have that relationship with our residents. So that's why we did not specifically state what would be cut, because we didn't want that type of conversation.
Okay, now Anne.
I think that was a misclick on my part. I apologize.
Oh, okay. These have all been very good questions. Thank you.
Now, we do have Anna.
Promoting Anna.
Oh, Anna. Okay. Good evening, Anna. You're muted. There you go.
Hi. I have a question that it's a little out of my depth, so I'm still trying to understand, but it's about tax incremental districts.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep, we're ready. Go ahead, Anna. No.
We lose the connection? Looks like she's still there.
Earlier about the $60,000. I think that's that money. So part of it. My question is then, if that would have closed, if those districts would have closed in 2025, what would have come back to the city, and where would that have gone? Would that have any impact on what's going on now, or at least put us in a better position in our future when future TIFs or TIDs close? Is that going to continue to go to the housing fund?
I missed the beginning. I heard the 60,000. I'm not sure what was ahead of that, Anna.
Sorry, my
Okay.
my phone keeps going in and out, so I apologize.
Oh, no problem.
No, so what this is a TIF TID question.
Mhm.
So I know that there were, and like I had started, but this is a little out of my depth. I'm still trying to understand all this. So, but what I'm hoping to understand is that, like in 2025, there were districts that closed, but those were extended into 2026 with that money going into the housing fund. And so I think, and that was the $60,000. That was the $60,000 that the woman, I think the person was referring to earlier. I'm guessing that's what that was about.
Yeah.
So my question is that if that hadn't gone into the housing fund, what would have come back to the city, and where would that have gone? Like, would it have gone into operations? Would it have gone into the capital development programs? Where would that have gone, and how would that have offset anything that we're dealing with now? And then also, as these future ones are coming to the end, how are those going to continue to go into the housing fund, or will that come back into the city directly?
Go ahead. Mayor, do you want me to lead off?
Sure. Those are good questions.
Yep.
Very good questions, Anna. Yeah, and I think you're referring to our affordable housing fund by delaying the closure for 1 year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So state law allows us to hold open a TIF for 1 additional year and use the funds collected in that TIF district for affordable housing. There's actually legislation, I believe, in the state legislature now to maybe allow communities to hold it open 2 years, because it is a very successful tool to assist with affordable housing. Had we not done that, had we closed it, obviously we get the benefit of the TIF closure 1 year earlier. So it would have moved the referendum possibly, but you still would have ended up in a referendum. It doesn't fundamentally change how we move forward. How the TIF helps is you get the benefit of the county's dollars, the city's dollars, the school district's dollars, and the technical college's dollars. By holding open that TIF 1 additional year, you can use all of those taxes, all of those tax dollars to assist with housing. And that could be creating more affordable housing, could be helping seniors stay in their home through repairs, number of different programs to help with housing affordability. And so the city council chose to take advantage of that 1 year extension to be able to fund the affordable housing fund. Each city council will have to make a decision on whether they want to do that with future TIFs, whether they want to hold them open a year. If they feel that affordable housing is something the city should invest in through these different programs, it is the most beneficial tool the city has available to it, which is to hold open those TIFs additional year. But I don't know what the priority will be of city councils at that time. But at this time, that was the decision that was made, is to hold them open 1 more year. We still would have had to go to referendum. Maybe the years would have shifted, or the amounts would have shifted to some extent. I don't have those numbers in front of me. But it wouldn't have changed whether the city would need a referendum at some point. The city would still need a referendum.
Wouldn't it have been, though, millions that would have come back into the general tax population, basically, like not into, because now it can only be used specifically for specific housing, right? So I was just wondering, or housing incentive, not necessarily housing itself. So I was just wondering, right, how much that would have made a difference.
Yeah, I don't have those numbers in front of me, Anna, but you have to remember, if we close the TIF, we only get the city's portion, which is far less than the school district, the county, and the technical college all together. So when you see the housing fund and you say, oh, it's millions, that's because we are benefiting from the other taxing jurisdictions' dollars as well. Because if you close it, the school district gets their portion back to them, back to their operating budget. County gets their portion back to their operating budget. We only retain the city's portion. So it's less than what was put into the housing fund. So that's the benefit of holding that TIF open an additional year.
Yeah, we would only get like 35% of that total.
Okay. And then where, if in, and I'm not trying to say the housing fund is bad. I'm trying to understand it, especially in this, at this time when a lot of people, like myself, that would not qualify for anything through the housing fund, but are trying to hold on to what we have now, or right at that tipping point. I was just wondering how in the future, if that's going to continue, but it sounds like that's going to be up to individual councils. But where does that money go then? Does it go into the operating fund?
Yes.
If it would, or would it go into like the capital fund?
No, it would go into the operating fund. So how that works is, once the debt in the TIF is paid off, So there's usually debt incurred when TIFs are there for either infrastructure or for incentives, direct incentives. Once that is all paid off, the revenue has come in, the debts are all paid off and met. You can hold it open an additional year beyond the time that the TIF is now at break even. You can hold it open an additional year for funds to go to the housing fund. If you don't do that, the TIF closes and the taxes return to the operating fund for the city portion only.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, any other questions? These have been really good. Anybody out there, Don?
No hands raised currently.
Okay, we'll give another minute. There must be at least one more out there.
Ellen, back in.
Okay, Ellen, welcome back.
Hi, sorry, just as I'm listening and researching things, I was looking at the school referendum from 2 years ago, which was 25 million. And I would much rather have done this one, and I would do these all the time. But I think that one left such a bad taste, like because that was so large and just the benefits of it, whereas this is citywide and that's very localized. So that might be part of the problem.
This might be hard to believe, Ellen, but you're not the first person that said that.
I mean, I would rather vote for city referendums all day than a large, because I mean, over time, if we did this 4 times, that's, 4 or 5 times that would equate to the one that went to the high school. And I think it's just sad that that's maybe how a lot of people think.
Yeah, thank you for that comment.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ellen.
Okay, anyone else? Okay. Don, no other hands, right?
Nope, no hands.
Okay, thank you. Well, I want to thank our city administrator, Aaron Oppenheimer, our fire chief, Chris Garrison, and our police chief, Kevin Wark. Thank you very much. And I thank all of you for attending. Hopefully we've educated you. How you're going to vote is up to you, of course. But in the meantime, if you have any other questions that weren't answered today, please feel free to reach out to myself or any of your alders. Our information is out on the city website, and we'd be happy to answer any other questions that you have. So with that, we will close this out and wish you all a wonderful evening. Hopefully you still get outside and enjoy some of this beautiful weather. Thank you for attending.
Yep, we appreciate it.
Thank you.